our next Fireside Chat. Gorilla and Yotta, building the backbone of India's AI future. And for this, I would like to introduce on stage our moderator leading the conversation, Sunil Gupta, together with Chandan. Please welcome them on stage.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, the format of the Fireside Chat said that I'm the moderator and he's the speaker, but we just decided that both of us will be moderator and both of us will be speakers. So it's more of a chit chat about how the AI ecosystem is coming up in India. So let's start.
So Sunil, instead of having a fireside chat, because we don't have a fireplace, should we just stand and have a conversation? Because I think the audience is pretty. All right. So Sunil, since you've been in India and you're building data centers, can you talk to me about how sovereign AI is driving hyperscale infrastructure in India, and what are your thoughts on that?
Let me give you some background to the people who possibly might not know as much in detail about India. Simple numbers. India is 1.4 billion people, right? Which is like more than the population of some large continents. More important is, out of this 1.4 billion people, each of whom is carrying a phone, but 1 billion are carrying a smartphone. 1 billion people carrying smartphones connected to internet with the lowest cost of internet and highest per capita consumption of content, of data. That is India for you. The number of digital payments which India is doing today is more than 50% of the whole of the world. So what digital payments India is doing, the rest of the entire world does that much of digital payments. So that is the scale of digital adoption in India. So whether it is, and because of this digital adoption, any and every type of data center capacity, cloud capacity, or the AI GPU capacity India is putting in, everything has got a very, very ready market, because you are going to produce some applications, whether AI based or non-AI based, they will be consumed by people who are carrying smartphones, right, on their smartphones, and that will just get consumed till the time you're giving a good value add at a reasonable price point. So there's a huge market there. In the last 3 years, ever since of course ChatGPT came in everybody's life, it came in consumers' hand, it has been fire in India. The number of users on ChatGPT, Indians, has already become number one. And same is the case with Anthropic or Gemini or Perplexity or any popular model. Indians are number one users almost across platforms. Second, which is happening, obviously because of this demand, there's a huge demand now that if you have to serve this huge demand, why not to serve these people by running those models in India, in Indian data centers itself? Why to serve them from US? That itself is creating a huge market for data center and GPUs in India, which means delivering foreign models to Indian consumers from Indian GPUs and Indian data centers. But the bigger wave, AI by its nature, people are scared what will happen to my data, right? So people want sovereign AI clouds. People want sovereign models which are trained on sovereign data sets. And that is a huge wave which India is having right now, supported fully by Government of India. Government of India created a fund called India AI Mission, and they are saying, they are telling people like us, you guys own data centers, you guys invest into GPUs, and you sort of give it on a consumption model. And then government is paying the bill to us, and then government is giving these GPUs to model builders, academia, researchers, and saying go and build India specific models. That is creating another big market of India specific sovereign models being trained in India, big GPU requirement. And once these models are coming into inferencing for users to use, as per the use case of agriculture, healthcare, education, whatever, that again will create demand for millions of GPUs, because those models, those use cases will be adopted by millions of people. So that is India for you.
No, that's great. Just to add to that point, right? When you start talking sovereign AI, you're talking about a lot of users creating a lot of data. More data means more training models. More training models means you require a lot of GPU compute. Then at the same time, you're talking about increase of power, you need more cooling, you need more electricity. which effectively means you need more sovereign infrastructure, which you guys are building. Yeah. Now, simply put it today, if you'd ask me with 1.5 billion people, with the amount of data that's being generated, what makes it very important is that the sovereignty is deeply digitized. You're moving at a speed which is unparalleled to the region, but more importantly, you need security and auditability. Yeah, right. And I think, moving on, from here, I'd like to kind of, talk about some of the lessons between us.
Let me, Jay, ask you a question, and let me start with the problem we faced and how we were able to solve. I don't know how many of you observed. Recently, we announced a major partnership between Yotta and Gorilla. I represent Yotta, Jay represents Gorilla, and the challenge was the scale at which India need to build up its GPU infrastructure is like from a stage of 0 2 years back to a stage of millions of GPUs required literally in the next 2 or 3 years. By any stretch of imagination, both technically it can be a challenge, logistics wise it can be a challenge, and more importantly, even from a capital raising point of view, it can be a big challenge. Between Gorilla and Yotta, we actually decided to tackle it, in a big way. And we decided that how can we build this infrastructure in India very fast, and that is where a partnership emerged between Gorilla and Yotta. So Jay, can you just explain?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm very honored to partner with you guys. But more importantly, what we are doing is just the beginning of our deployment in India. So we're looking at about 5,000 GPU cards to be deployed for our AI workloads in the first 6 months. But what does that tell you? We learned a lot of lessons, and this is very important because it shows that India has moved from just pilots or commissions into large-scale models. They're helping local entrepreneurs build scale at the same time so that they can help subsidize some of the requirements as well. The second lesson, which I personally learned, was everybody wants AI, right? AI is the buzzword right now, but if you cannot secure compute, all you're looking at is you just got theater and there's no infrastructure left. The third most important point, I think you cannot go into India without a partner and without a very credible partner. And that's what we found in you. What we need in a partner is that we just can't deploy racks and figure out that we can run the compute and make sure that we are a visionary. That doesn't work at all, especially in a place like India. You want someone who's got local operating capability, someone who's got the capacity to actually go beyond the 5,000 GPUs, but more importantly, along with Gorilla, who brings capital commitment, we want to make sure that there's local delivery capability as well. But what we found with Sunil is we found that he takes us to the best vada pav in town, right? And if anybody's not familiar with vada pav, it's what the Indian version of the burger. And he takes me to some really great places in Mumbai. But jokes aside, the build-out which we are looking at is not just the 5,000 GPU cards. We're looking at the next generation of 20,000 GPU cards going up to 36,000 GPU cards. For me, we believe that the demand is real, the execution is at speed and capacity, but more importantly, we believe that the local partnership is what is going to drive our sovereign AI partnership as well.
Absolutely. Maybe I'm just repeating what I've said earlier. India typically is late in adoption of any technology wave. Whether you see computers in 80s, whether you see internet adoption in 90s, whether you see smartphone adoption, or whether you see 3G wave, 4G wave, 5G wave, any technology waves. India might be 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years later than possibly US. But once India adopts it always adopted scale simply because of the sheer population numbers, which now is supported by a huge rollout of both fiber-based network as well as wireless networks and extremely low cost of data. The 7 years of Indian consumer, whether they are literate or not literate, whether they know English or not, they have huge number of native languages. But the 7 years of Indians is just proved, as I said, by the fact that 50% of the total digital payments in the world actually are done only in India. So just imagine if a combination of global AI models like ChatGPT, like Perplexity, like Gemini, coupled with a whole lot of small models which are task specific, industry specific, use case specific, built for India needs. If all of them are actually getting launched in India and are finding their market through those 1 billion smartphones in the hands of consumer, we all can just imagine the scale of infrastructure GPU build out required in India. So whatever Jay and me are talking about, we are actually talking about how do we capture this opportunity which is rapidly coming in front of us. We don't have time for 5 years to build it. From 0 GPU, as I said, to a million GPU, it is a 3-year cycle. And that is where this partnership, that local capability of we being able to develop large data center campuses with lots of power, fiber, skill sets which are local, and coupled with international exposure, experience and funding available which is coming from Gorilla, that makes fantastic sense for this rapid development.
I agree. Just to put it in one line, if India needs it, we'll build it. Now, going to the next topic, and I think we're going to be pressed on time here. What do you see as the role for the GPU infrastructure in scaling our ambitions of AI in India?
I think we all know AI ultimately runs on GPUs. So this is a question which is self-understood that when you want to train the models, you need GPUs. You want to fine-tune models, you want GPUs. You want to have inferencing on AI models, you want GPUs. The key point in India is how do you make GPU infrastructure available in India at lowest possible costs. India always is extremely price-sensitive market. How do you make bulk of the infrastructure available at lowest possible cost point? And that is where, again, I'm saying that today, in fact, let me give you some more shot. On one side, government of India is making lots of government to citizen use cases, which can go to serve millions of use cases, millions of citizens in one go. Something in agriculture, something in healthcare. Businesses and enterprises are making a lot of B2B use cases, maybe in finance, maybe in media entertainment, maybe in manufacturing. Everybody is doing POCs, pilots. People are not crossing the line of taking those use cases into production. Why they are not taking? Because somewhere they are not convinced on the ROI. If I invest into these GPUs, into these models, into data sets, skill set, will I get my returns or not? The CFO is not convinced. How do you make it possible? You bring the cost economics so down that they are willing to take and cross over that line and say, okay, let me start experimenting. If I become successful, then I'll scale up immediately. So the real question, which answering your question is, by making our GPUs available in bulk at the lowest price point on a usage model to consumers, so that they stop talking about ROE. Okay, use GPUs for a few days, few hours, few months. If you're successful, scale up. If you're not successful, come out. That is what we are trying to do. And that is very, very important for people to start adopting AI in a big way.
No, that's great, because I'm seeing, especially when I was in India a few weeks ago, I realized that banks are now starting to explore. They're looking at, how they can actually build a risk model for themselves. I'm seeing telecom operators talk about predictive maintenance. I'm also seeing on the other side, people like retailers using recommendation engines, which is coming to the fore. And this is going to be important because for me, the most important thing is if you cannot make sure that you've got high-speed networking, right? You don't have all your power, your cooling, your electricity, and so on and so forth. But the most important thing, which I realized, is the talent working in India. If you miss any of these, all your expensive GPUs, they're just going to be, glamorous radiators for me. So when I look at India as a market, I'm seeing the investment go there. And that's why when we first met you, we were overwhelmed by that overall, infrastructure you already built. I haven't seen those kind of data centers at scale. So we were absolutely, and just to add some color to this, I always discuss about this whole AI ecosystem from supply side and demand side. Supply side, as Jay said, what AI needs? Skill sets, data sets, startup ecosystem, funding, data center infrastructure, GPUs. The only thing which India was not having out of all these were GPUs, right? Otherwise, skill sets, startups, every other thing, India is always on the top for last many decades. That is what we are trying to plug. On the demand side, Indian market itself is so big, 1 billion people. Second, as I said, from India, that's what we are observing in the last couple of months. Globally, the demand, the GPU shortage is so much. We are seeing people are coming and consuming our GPUs from US, from Europe, from Middle East.
not just for training their model, but also for inferencing. So India has the potential also because of being a geopolitically safe area compared to many other areas in the world. So India is also becoming a hub spot for serving global demand as well. And the Middle East situation obviously is helping India's cause from that point of view.
I agree with you.
So let me just ask Jay one question, because you have seen the AI ecosystem from a world point of view, from Asia point of view. If you had to extrapolate what is happening in India and give a view of how it is panning out in Asia, how you will define that?
Absolutely. So, first most important thing, right? What India is giving to the region. I'm not just going to talk about India, I'm going to talk about the effect on Asia itself. India is launching scale. It's providing scale to the region. And that's what it does is it shows that AI infrastructure can be deployed at scale, but more importantly, it is seriously and commercially viable. Right? Your investment you're making, the returns are in 3 to 5 years on your GPU infrastructure. That is actually not a bad position to be in today. But more importantly, if you look at it, the Indian government has already committed, 20,000 plus GPU cards. They want to go up to about 38,000 plus GPU cards over the next couple of years. The India AI mission is also very active in the space. But what I realized is that with scale comes complexities. And what we want to do is that when we want to look at India as a market, we want to make sure that those complexities are addressed. Now, think about it this way. Most people came to me, in all the meetings I've had, people are like, oh, is India going to replace Singapore or Malaysia or Vietnam? That's not going to happen. India is not here to replace anybody. India is here to actually help you build scale and velocity. It's here to show you that yes, you can build these large-scale models and you can be successful at an efficient cost base, right? But if you look at it over a period of time, the real message for me is very simple. India is helping you move from being a local builder to an AI infrastructure consumer. That is very important because it's taking you away from your cost of dollars and your infrastructure, your GPUs, into very simple 3 important things. It's steel, electricity, and silicon. I think that's all I can say. Yeah. So add to that?
No, I can just see our time is just up.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. I hope you found this discussion about India useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There you have them, Gorilla and Yotta. Thank you for this. This was a very interactive, wonderful presentation. I love the chit chat back and forth, and I'm seeing some heads nodding here in the front row. They do agree.